Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to our showcase event on fair water footprints, changing the game in the race to 2030. My name is Anam Farhan and I work at Chatham House. It's great to have you with us. And even though we do have quite a short slot for this event, we want it to be really formal and engaging. So please do get involved, submit your questions in the Trippus chat box, and really use this opportunity to learn from our fantastic panel of speakers. Before we dive in, for those that are unfamiliar with the Fair Water Footprints Partnership, this was an initiative that was launched at COP26 and labelled a breakthrough initiative at COP27. It brings together a really unique coalition of 28 signatories, including governments, businesses, and civil society. And its aim is to really trigger a systemic change on the use of water within our supply chains and to look for opportunities for collaboration within this group of partners to improve water security. So I'm going to stop there in the interest of time, but our panelists are going to elaborate more on the urgency and importance of this initiative and some of the transformative action that's already underway. And I'd really encourage you also to take a look at the Fair Water Footprints website, which has a lot more information on this. So I'll move on to our panel now. We're going to go to Nick Hepworth first. Nick is the Executive Director of Water Witness International, and he's going to highlight some of the recent data on global water footprints and what this means for producer and consumer countries. Over to you, Nick.
Thank you, Anam. I've just got a slide deck I'm just going to try and share here. Here we go. Morning, everybody. Just getting this going. Good morning. My name's Nick Hepworth. I work for Water Witness International. The slide you see there is a perfect example of why we need fair water footprints. This is one of the biggest sugar plantations in Tanzania. And in the dry season last year, to meet their water needs, they blocked the entire flow of the Wami River to divert the full flow of water to their sugar plantation, denying water to downstream communities, thousands of people, and a national park with important ecosystems. The sugar plantation supplies the sugar into European markets and receives investment from global pension funds. And it's exactly why we need to focus on fair water use, sustainable water use, resilient water use in our global water footprints. The analysis that we published at UN Water in February this year reveals the profound dependency of the global north on water use in the global south to meet our daily needs for food, clothing, technology, and the stuff that we consume on a daily basis. This dependency is increasing. You can see here the chart of the water footprint of consumption. It really is profound. So, for example, in the UK, all the water needed to supply consumers, 70% of that water is used external to the UK. In Sweden, where we are today for Stockholm Water Week, it's 66%. And these figures are typical. In Holland, it's as much as 94%. So really profound dependencies on water use out there in the world. Now, the analysis using the water footprints methodology also suggests that over 50% of that water use is unsustainable. So draining aquifers, drying rivers, polluting watercourses, pushing communities, ecosystems, and economies into extreme climate vulnerability. Now, when we map that unsustainable water use, we see a global spread. And what Fair Water Footprints is about is bringing together global leaders, scientists, politicians, NGOs, businesses and banks to ensure that our global water footprints are a force for good, driving resilient water use rather than undermining vulnerability in these places. Now, our teams and our partners in civil society across the world are ground truthing what this unsustainable water use looks like. And whether we're in Peru here on the left, which supplies many of the fresh fruit and vegetables into the global supermarkets, which drives extreme aquifer depletion and water conflict, whether we're looking at Kenya, which provides flowers and again green vegetables into European supermarkets, where farms are with water security are existing cheek by jowl to communities facing cholera and famine because of water shortage, whether it's in Madagascar, where mining pollution creates huge problems for ecosystems and communities, or in Malawi, where we're going to hear from Minister Mia, there's problems around the allocation of water for export crops and impacts on flood resilience for communities. Wherever we look, there are great examples of why we need fair water footprints. And we're also seeing glimmers of hope where progressive actors, including some of the signatories to the Fair Water Footprints Declaration, are taking real action to ensure that their footprints are fair and resilient. What do we mean by a fair water footprint? Well, it's not the size of a water footprint which is important, it's whether that water use is sustainable or not. And what we're looking for is, in our global supply chains, is for water use which causes zero pollution, which is based on equitable and sustainable withdrawal of water from rivers and aquifers, which is based on the protection and promotion of nature, which drives universal access to water supply, sanitation and hygiene, and which contributes to drought and flood and climate resilience. I'm thrilled that the partnership, or we're thrilled that the partnership around fair water footprints is growing, and we've got new interest and signatories this week in Stockholm. This is really the leadership effort that the world now needs to enable SDG 6 and the fair use of water in the global economy. So there's more detail on our website. The research that we're publishing is available there. Please get in touch for further details, and I'll hand over to our colleagues on the session.
Thank you so much, Nick. That was fantastic. And the data really brings into stark view how unsustainable our water footprints are. So thank you so much for that. I'll hand over now to our second speaker, who is Honourable Minister Abida Sadiq Mia, the Minister for Water and Sanitation on Malawi. Minister Mia, it would be great to hear from you on what unfair water footprints means for Malawi, and as a signatory to the Fair Water Footprints Partnership, how the government of Malawi is really championing this initiative. Over to you.
Okay, thank you. Have I been on mute? Yes, I'm on mute, but the video is not there. Is that okay?
No, we can't see your camera, but if that's a connection issue, that's fine. Feel free to just...
Okay, thank you. Chair, ladies and gentlemen, good morning to you all. Greetings from Malawi. I am greatly honored to speak on this important topic on the fair water footprint today. Firstly, allow me to thank Water Witness International for the commendable job of advocating for sustainable and equitable drawing and utilization of water. Water is life and is a key enabler for socio-economic development of any country. Therefore, the importance of sustainably utilizing it does not need to be overemphasized. In 2021, at the UNFCCC 26th session of the Conference of Parties in Glasgow, Scotland, Malawi signed a declaration on fair water footprint. We signed the declaration because we want zero pollution on our waters. We wish our waters to be utilized sustainably. We would like our communities to benefit from the utilization of water resources. Also build resilience to climate change related shocks like floods and droughts. I'm glad to report that we established the National Water Resources Authority to regulate the abstraction and utilization of our water resources in Malawi. We have also stepped up efforts to restore landscapes and manage water catchment areas. Ultimately, we wish to ensure that all Malawians have access to water for both domestic and industrial use, also sanitation services. This is in line with the Malawi 2063, which is our national vision of attaining a middle income status by 2063. The efforts are also in line with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, including number 6 on the universal access to clean water and sanitation. Ladies and gentlemen, about 30% of our population still lacks access to safe water. This is very worrisome situation, as this segment of the population is under constant threat of suffering from waterborne diseases, leading to negative outcomes on poverty, health, and nutrition, among others. Efforts to provide clean water and sanitation are also being continuously frustrated by the effects of climate change. For instance, this year in March, we suffered very devastating floods and mudslide disasters caused by the tropical cyclone Freddy. Water and sanitation infrastructure with hundreds of millions of dollars was washed away. We have not yet recovered from that disaster, and we are also afraid of what might happen this year. We believe that collaborative efforts and partnerships will be instrumental in the recovery process. We need your support towards this. Therefore, let me conclude by expressing my gratitude to all partners who are supporting our efforts of sustainably and equitably providing water and sanitation services to Malawians, and further invite more partners to join hands to improve the situation and the problems we are facing in Malawi. I thank you all.
Thank you so much, Minister Mia, for those remarks.
Yeah.
It was great to hear from you. I wonder, when we go to the audience Q&A part, if you might be able to turn your camera on. It would be great for the audience to see you.
Sure.
But do just—
Let me try.
Sure.
I'll try now.
Sure. Yes, that's great. Thank you so much. Good to see you.
I think I lost you, that's why. Yes.
No worries. I'm going to pass over to our final speaker now, but just before I do, a quick reminder to our audience to please continue submitting any questions you have in the Trippus chat box. We will have a couple of minutes for questions at the end of the session, so please do submit them. We want to hear from you. So over to Susanna Franks. Susanna, you're the Sustainability Manager at Sainsbury's. And as I mentioned before, businesses are a really key part of this partnership in terms of triggering that change in our supply chain. So could you share a little bit more about some of the work that Sainsbury's is doing in water resource management and how this contributes to fair water?
Yeah, thanks, Anam. And hi, everyone. It's great to be here. My name is Sis Franks, and I'm a Sustainability Manager at Sainsbury's, leading on nature, of which, of course, water is a really critical component. So Sainsbury's is a retailer of food, drink, clothing, and general merchandise, with over 1,400 stores across the UK and a turnover of £3.1 billion. So we have an established programme of work and investment to meet our operational targets on water, which is to become water neutral by 2040. And excitingly this year, we've just invested in our first nature-based solutions replenishment project in partnership with the Rivers Trust, a UK NGO, and other stakeholders in the northwest of England. However, like many businesses, and especially food businesses, we recognise that the bulk of our water footprint is situated outside of our own operations, so just like our greenhouse gas emissions. And a recent water footprinting exercise that we conducted in 2022 quantified this. So just 2% of our water footprint is associated with our own assets, with the remaining 98% embedded in our supply chain. So of that 98%, only 13% is found in our tier 1 suppliers. So demonstrating that while action in this first level of our supply chain, it's a really critical first step, but will have the most impact when we can tackle water issues deeper in our supply chain down at farm level. So our supply chain target is to source 50% of our fresh food from areas of sustainable water management by 2030. And this is where we really lean on collective action, which for us in the food and drink sector, we fund through WRAP, which is another UK-based NGO, and they're also recently a signatory to the Water Footprints Declaration as well. So that's in our key sourcing hotspots, including the UK, Spain, South Africa, and Kenya, and expanding it more this year. If we then take one more step up the WWF water stewardship ladder, we reach the point of influencing governance. And as we all know, it's so critical to have this strong enabling environment, something I've heard a lot about over the last 2 days here in Stockholm, with robust and implemented policies, regulations to ensure that any investments, whether that's through individual or collective action, can deliver their intended benefits. So while we have a policy team at Sainsbury's that works closely with our UK government, we source from over 90 countries in our supply chain. So this presents a really considerable challenge. And it's one where we rely on collaboration with NGOs that are really close to the local context. And it's really, really critical. So if I look to a recent example in Doñana, southern Spain, it's the location of one of our collective action projects that we fund via WRAP. We can explore a bit how NGOs are supporting us in our advocacy work. So as many people will know, of course, Doñana, it's a Ramsar site, it's a World Heritage site, and it's a critical migration route for birds entering Northern Europe. It's drying out with illegal water abstractions for berry production known as one of the drivers, and a really complex political situation risks enabling this unsustainable abstraction to continue. So the WWF, who we work closely with through RAP, has developed a number of petitions which we've supported. And this local knowledge and understanding of the political landscape has meant that we as UK retailers are kept informed of these developments and are able to add our business support to this advocacy work being led by the WWF in southern Spain, which is one of our most important sourcing regions. However, this action is still kind of stuck in the proactive, reactive state. So as our work on water and our supply chain expands and accelerates, we hope to be able to influence governments in more of our key sourcing hotspots with true proactivity. But this will only be possible with the guidance of NGOs like WWF, like Water Witness, and their convening of international governments with the support of the private sector together. So I hope that's given a sense of how we at Sainsbury's are taking action on water in our supply chains, and an example of one of the gaps where collaboration with our peers in the NGO space is so critical. And with that, I'll pass back to Anam. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Suze, and thanks for sharing that really tangible example. That was really interesting to hear. And we got some of the atmospheric noise from Stockholm behind you as well. I know there's a fire alarm going off in the venue, so you've had to move very quickly, but thank you so much for joining us. We do now have a little bit of time for audience Q&A because our speakers have been fantastic in keeping to time. So again, just encouraging anyone who has a question to please submit it in the Trippers chat box, and I would be very happy to read it out. But I'll get us started with some questions of my own. Each of you have touched on this a little bit already in your remarks, but I'd love to go a bit deeper and hear a bit more about, on the one end, what might be a barrier, and then on the other end, what might be an opportunity to others within your sector to get involved in the Fair Water Footprints Partnership. So what's one barrier and one opportunity? And just more broadly, you know, what should or would encourage others to get behind this partnership? So I'll go in the same order as we went just now. Nick, I'll come to you first, then Minister Mia, then Suze.
Great, thanks, Anam. That's a really good question. And as Susan and the Honourable Minister have alluded to, it's water governance which is at the heart of this, and getting improved water governance in place and system strengthening. And that's a delicate art. I mean, it's not an easy task. What we're hoping to do through this work is to support civil society around the world in these key sourcing areas to bring objective evidence of what's happening on the ground to tables, to get debate, to get progress in implementation, to get funding for the sector, and to hold people to account. That's really important work, and we've got evidence of how it can be effective. But lots of the civil society groups that we want to work with lack the funding, the long-term support that's needed. Now, to tackle that barrier to contributing to Fair Water Footprints, we're setting up a global support facility with some of the signatories to the declaration to enable civil society to do that important oversight role, constructive advocacy, and bringing voices and evidence to the table to show why change is needed and how it can be affected. So we're really keen that as part of our Fair Water Footprints plan, we're able to energize the brave civil society around the world to perform its important role in this initiative. The great thing is that we're seeing new collaboration around that idea and joining the dots between different aspects of the water sector to invest in accountability monitoring across the world to help us get towards SDG 6. So we're really keen that, what we're seeing is that Fair Water Footprints is a catalyst for that collaboration at a global scale to get action on the ground. So we're thrilled with progress to date.
Thank you, Nick. Minister Mia? Oh, I think you're still on mute. You have to unmute yourself.
Is that okay?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, thank you. On the issue of the problems we're facing is the understanding. People don't really understand, what it's all about, what the lack of understanding of what the fair water footprint actually is. So definitely you need to do more with regards to advertising yourself out there, making sure people, are able to come in, like a lot of us know, but there's still a huge gap in people knowing exactly what you're trying to do and joining the bandwagon as well. So definitely you need to go out there and let people know what you're doing as, the fair water footprint and your work in water witness. And the benefits, the opportunities are obviously stewardship, that sustainable use of water for food security, poverty reduction, in terms of obviously health, disease control. There's a lot that you're doing to benefit us with regards to this program and the project that you've started here. We really appreciate this. Thank you so much, Nick, for all the work.
Thank you so much, Minister Mia. Nick, did you want to come in and say a few more words about that campaign?
Yeah, that's exactly right, Minister Mia. This is about changing hearts and minds, and right from the consumer level through to the retailers that Suze represents, the investors behind these water footprints, and policymakers and decision makers in government. The communications is a key element of this, and with the team, or with a large team across the declaration signatories, we'll be launching the Fair Water Footprints campaign, the public-facing campaign, to get this in the public eye, get it in political debate around the world, and that's going to be launched, we hope, early next year in the House of Commons in the UK, and I hope we can arrange a similar launch with you and your team in Malawi and elsewhere. But yeah, there'll be a whole set of resources, videos, social media, using language that people can understand and get hold of, with clear actions that they can take in order to contribute to fairer water footprints in our global economy. So you're dead right. The communications isn't there yet, but we're generating the evidence and getting the messaging right in order to land that next year, and that will be a key part of whether we're successful or not.
Thanks so much, Nick. Suze, I'll come to you now on that earlier question on barriers and opportunities for businesses to get involved in friendship.
Great, and I'll try and speak closer to my mic so you don't get as much background noise. Yeah, so I think one barrier is maybe that this space is quite crowded. There's a lot of initiatives out there for businesses, but I think what is really great with the Fair Water Footprints Declaration is that RAP, which is a roadmap that all the UK retailers have signed up to, lots of our suppliers are signed up to, is now a signatory to the declaration as well. So there's that alignment coming through, which is just so important. And of course, an opportunity is around shared supply chains. So UK retailers typically have very similar sourcing footprints across the world, shared suppliers, shared supply chains. So alignment it just makes sense. Yeah.
That's great. Thanks so much. We've got a question from Bruce Langford in the audience, and I'm going to put this one to Nick. It's around reducing water footprints. So Bruce says, the most effective way to cut water consumption by irrigation is not to withdraw water in the first place. The Wami River situation is a good, if depressing, example of that. But once water is withdrawn, it is necessary to reduce depletion while sustaining food production. What is Fair Water Footprints doing on both fronts, cutting withdrawals and cutting depletion? Nick, if I could put that one to you.
Great, and I'm pleased that Professor Langford's on the line. Great and an important, challenging question. So we agreed through a global multi-stakeholder process the definition of a fair water footprint, with these broad themes that align with SDG 6 around zero pollution, sustainable and equitable withdrawal, universal wash, and so forth. Now, remarkably, there is no global definition yet of what equitable and sustainable withdrawal means in practice, or how you measure it and demonstrate it. So one of the tasks of the signatories and the technical working group, which is supporting them, is to get that definition in place. And we've got a global process for that, and that should be that the publication of that it will be in the next few months. At the moment, what we're asking the signatories to do is tell us what they think, how they're measuring sustainable resource use and equitable resource use in their supply chains, so we can harvest those great ideas and approaches and feed them into the system. And then we'll be building up to a more rigorous definition and benchmarking indicators in the years in the next couple of years. In terms of the whether we're looking at withdrawals or depletion, what we're saying is we want the abstraction of water from the natural environment to be based on a sustainable basis, i.e. it doesn't deplete or deny the needs of downstream users or deplete the resource for future generations. So it's about bringing down withdrawals to within those limits of sustainability, or what local people consider to be equitable to meet their needs. Now, that can happen. I mean, there are many examples of closed basins where water is being over abstracted, where steps can be taken to reduce withdrawals to within sustainable limits. Probably another big opportunity, and what we're trying to do, is to drive investment to the places where water is available, rather than piling in to where water is already overdrawn. And places like Peru are classic examples of this. We've got a cluster of activity to serve global markets in places where the aquifer is already massively overstressed, and yet 300 miles up the coast, there's plenty of water to use. So we're trying to incentivize through finance, through consumer demand, through supply chains, to push production to places where it's sustainable, that's going to create public benefit locally, rather than overstressing already stretched resources. So it's a long-winded answer to the question, but yeah, what we're looking for is reduction of footprints to within sustainable limits of that water resource system, and the exact definition of that is being developed.
Thanks so much, Nick. Suze, we've got a question from Javelin Tobio. Javelin's asking, I picked up on the fact that you mentioned petitions on supply chain sustainability in your remarks, and they're asking for some examples of those and how Sainsbury's is influencing the political and corporate landscape.
Thanks, Adam. And yeah, it's a really important question. So I touched on it a bit in when I spoke earlier, but in Doñana last year, we, along with many of our peers and competitors, signed a letter coordinated by WWF, which was lobbying the local government to not grant the amnesties to the farms that were illegally extracting water, purely because it undermines the efforts of legal farms that we source from in production of strawberries and contributing to the overall sustainable use of water in that region. But as I spoke about earlier, it's really complex to get a sense of all these specific regional and national political situations across the world from all the countries we source from. So that's where with WWF, we are developing a program of work to advocate in a more proactive way. And this is through an acceleration of the work that we've committed to with other nature retailers, which are signatories to the WWF Commitment for Nature, to accelerate our work on water. And that's through the RAP Water Roadmap. And yeah, I mean, that would just be so critical for influencing the political landscape and other sourcing hotspots around the world for us.
Thanks so much, Suze. 30 minutes has flown by and we're almost out of time, but I want to come to each of our speakers for very, very quick closing remarks. If there's anything you haven't had a chance to say yet, this is the opportunity to do so. And also, what do you want to see from COP28 going forward? If it's one thing on water or fair water footprints that we want to get out of COP28, what would it be from your perspective? So I'm going to switch up the order a little bit. I'm going to come to Minister Mia first, and then Suze, and then Nick to end. So Minister Mia, over to you. If you could very quickly share your closing remarks.
Okay. Thank you very much, Chair. It was interesting, the question that had been posed to Nick about controlling of the water that is being consumed and being extracted. I mentioned that we in Malawi, we'll also discuss with Nick that we have a water resource board that actually controls what is used for power generation, what is abstracted for, like for sugarcane growers, everyone that needs to, to abstract water from the water sources has to seek permission. So at least you know what your water levels are at the same time. So the Water Resource Board actually goes in, National Water Resource Board, and checks what the levels of the lake is or the rivers, and controls the usage. So maybe that would be a good thing for you to include, that most countries should have a National Water Resource Board to control flows. Like, for example, we had a minister coming from Mozambique on Thursday and Friday. We took him down to the barrage so he could understand why there was flooding in Mozambique and why we had to, regulate the opening of the barrage to, anything that was above sea level was safe, and that was 475 meters above sea level was safe, but anything that was below was being flooded. So people could understand, and he actually came to understand what the situation was, why that was happening in Mozambique, because it affects the whole, from the lake straight down the Shiri River. So all that it needs to be looked into, and definitely I think that should be included, that countries should have a national water resource, but that's just my advice. And what we'd like to see at COP is money coming through, because resources is what we need. For everybody to be able to do what they need to do, we need the finances, because we can do the work, but we need the money. So all the promises that were made, they need to be fulfilled, because we need to move.
Thank you so much, Minister. Yeah, I'm so sorry to cut you off there. We're just slightly over time, but I'm going to quickly pass over to Suze.
Thank you.
Thanks, Anam. I'll be really brief. But at COP28, it would just be great to see that link between water and food formally recognised. I'll pass to Nick.
Thanks, Suze.
Dead simple, as well as the resources that Minister Mir so eloquently put out there. Alone we can do so little, together we can do so much. So we need more people to join this effort and really, put our shoulders to the wheel to meet SDG 6 in the places where it counts most. So join us.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Sorry that went by so quickly, but thank you to our fantastic panel. Thank you to our audience for engaging. Please do check out the Fair Water Footprints website for more information and to see how you can get involved in this partnership. And we hope you enjoy the rest of World Water Week in Stockholm. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.